Hi, I'm Stephen Mitchell and this is a quick instructional video on installing DisplayBOX systems for window displays. The center of our system is the DisplayBOX itself. It's a Linux-based appliance. It doesn't need a keyboard or a mouse. It comes in a 2-screen and a 4-screen version. You can tell the versions apart by looking at the rear of the box. The 2-screen version has 2 outputs and the 4-screen version has 4 outputs. The processor in the boxes is also different. The dual screen version uses a dual core processor. The quad screen uses a quad core. The native output from the system is 4x DVI out. Those DVI connectors will connect directly to a DVI computer monitor. You can adapt those DVI connections using either a DVI to VGA, which will take you to a standard computer output, or you can adapt it to an HDMI connector, which is the way we typically use the system. So we put 4x HDMI adapters on it, which gives us 4 HDMIs out. The HDMI cables themselves come in 3 metre, 5 metre, 7.5 metre, 10 metre, 15 metre and 20 metre. When you're specifying a DisplayBOX system, it's important to tell us how far away the DisplayBOX is going to rest from the actual video monitors so that we supply the right cables. These HDMI cables then plug directly into the back of the box. The other end plugs into any HDMI screen, giving you a widescreen HDMI signal. It is true HDMI 1080p. As I said, the box doesn't have any keyboard or mouse connected to it. You have to have the screens powered on when you power the box up. If the screens aren't connected and powered up when the box powers up, it won't see the screens and it won't configure itself correctly. So make sure that the screens are plugged in and powered on when you turn the DisplayBOX on. When you turn the DisplayBOX on, it'll take up to 5 minutes for the box to boot and start to drive the screens correctly. So be patient. When you want to power the box down, just push this button again. It'll take about 60 seconds and the box will close itself down. Under no circumstances should you just pull the power out or turn the box off without powering it down correctly. We recommend driving the DisplayBOX with a UPS on it so that power outages don't power it down in a bad way. We like to see it powered down, power cycled correctly. Once you have your DisplayBOX, you have to find a place to put it in the office. Ideally, it should be somewhere where it's not in direct sun, where people aren't going to trip over it, where the cleaner isn't going to spill water in it. Somewhere in the back room where it can access because it's got to get an internet connection to it. Needs to connect to your office network so it can get at the internet. So typically in a cupboard, under a bench, somewhere where it's a little bit sheltered is ideal. If you've ordered speakers for your DisplayBOX, the speaker output is the green connection on the back of the DisplayBOX. Now the way we connect that, we supply you a set of Logitech speakers. You connect the Logitech speakers to the green output on the back of the DisplayBOX and get them going, just like you would any normal PC speakers. Then we supply you twisted pair cable that connects from the headset output on the speakers to either a flush mount roof speaker or a bracket mount roof speaker, depending on what you've ordered for your shop front. When you plug it into these speakers, the speakers themselves will stop and this speaker will start going. The volume and tone controls on these speakers then give you volume and tone for the outside of the shop. Now we come to actually mounting the screens in the front of your shop. The SoundsReal screen brackets are very flexible. It's composed of a bracket, which the screen itself mounts to, a display pole and a floor cover. This is the floor cover plate here. The cables pass up inside the pole, come out here and into the back of the monitor. That stops you from seeing any of the cables when the monitor is actually installed. There's 2 types of plates. The landscape plate has the hole centered in the middle of the plate. The portrait plate is slightly offset. When you're looking from the back of the plate, the wider side will be to the right. Poles can either be directly mounted to the floor. The cables pass down inside here, both the power and the HDMI cable, and then they come out. The back of the bracket here has a small notch which allows the plate to allow the cables out on the floor. The standard display pole is 1.3 meters high. This display pole can either, as I say, be mounted directly to the ground, or we have a freestanding plate which has 4 studs on it, and those 4 studs mount directly to the bottom of the display pole. So if you can't bolt the pole to the ground because you don't want to puncture highly polished tiles or something like that, you can mount this to the display plate, and then the plate just sits on the ground. So in cases where you can mount the display pole to the ground, you can do so. In cases where you don't want to disturb what's already there, or it's a relatively temporary installation, you can use the freestanding plate. The third way you can use this setup is you can order custom poles to mount from the roof. Before you set any screens up, we recommend that you take posters that we can supply and tape them to the front of the window and get the owner of the shop to agree that the position of the finish stands is going to be in the right place. That avoids arguments when you get to the end of the process and you've mounted all the hardware beautifully and the owner says, that's not the way I wanted it. When you're setting the screens up, it's a very important point that you have to set the screens to vivid mode. When you get the screen out of the box, it's in a standard room mode. You need to go to the menu, go to Picture, and set it to Vivid. So once your screens are mounted, your display box is in place, you've got power to your screens are connected to your display box. The next thing you need to do is get a network connection to the display box. Most real estate offices have a network hub, and that has an internet router built into it. That router usually supplies DHCP, which is a way of allocating the addresses to each of the machines in the office. The IP address for this needs DHCP, so all you do is plug the network cable from the back of your display box into one of the office ports, and it should pick up the DHCP and automatically start synchronizing. When the box is online, it will synchronize every 10 minutes to the customer's account. So as they upload their presentations to the system, the box will take 10 minutes, or could take up to 10 minutes, depending on where it is in the cycle, to start to synchronize. And then once it's synchronized, the new presentation's next loop around will start to play. So if you're doing a standard SoundsReal DisplayBOX installation, the installation should take you about half a day. By standard, I mean that you're using floor-mounted poles and you're not having to modify the building greatly. If you're doing a custom install where you're coming down from the roof, I would allow a day, and it's usually good to have 2 people because you've got men up and down ladders trying to fit the poles into the roof, and you have to cut holes in the roof to get the poles down. All in all, it's a very straightforward process. The display stands are a very flexible system. They're very easy to install. All the equipment we supply is all the best quality parts in the actual display box itself, US-made HDMI cables, LG screens, and all the parts are made to the highest possible standards. So good luck with your display box installation. I hope it all goes well. Thanks.